Most people are afraid of dying. You were taught to be afraid of dying wrong. There's a difference, and understanding that difference is the first thing that separates you from everyone else on the planet. You didn't choose this. You didn't apply. You didn't earn it. You were just born. And the moment you were 40 men outside a hospital room bowed their heads and called your father to say the heir had arrived. They were talking about you. You were 6 minutes old. This is what that life actually feels like from the inside. Not the movies, not the TV shows, the real thing. Here is the first thing nobody tells you about growing up as the Don's son. Your normal is not normal, but you don't know that for a very long time. You think every kid has a man outside their bedroom door every night. You think every family has meetings that adults stop having the moment a child walks into the room. You think every father gets kissed on the hand by grown men before they speak. You are 5 years old and this is just Tuesday. The first time you understand something is different is at 7. A boy at the market pushes you, just a kid. Bored, stupid, the way kids are sometimes. Before you can react, a hand comes from nowhere. The boy is lifted completely off the ground by a man you didn't even know was standing there. The boy's father rushes over. He sees who is holding his son. He goes white. He grabs his boy. He apologizes not to you, to the man holding his son. Over and over. His hands are shaking. You watch this, and you feel something for the first time that will follow you for the rest of your life. Not safety, not power, curiosity. Why is that man so afraid? You go home and ask your father. He looks at you for a long moment. Then he says, "Because he should be." No more explanation. You don't ask again. But you think about it for weeks. And slowly, in the way that children understand things before they have words for them, you begin to understand what your last name actually means. Your father never sits you down and says, "This is what we do. This is how it works." He doesn't have to. The education happens the way water shapes rock. Slowly, constantly, without announcing itself. You learn that certain men come to the house only after midnight. You learn that some conversations happen in the garden because gardens don't have walls. You learn that when your father uses a specific tone of voice, not louder, actually quieter, every adult in the room goes very still. You learn that loyalty is the most valuable currency in the world. More than money, more than power. Because money can be taken. Power can be challenged. But a man who is truly loyal, who would put his body between your father and a bullet without being asked, that man is worth more than any territory, any business, any deal. You are 9 years old learning this not from a textbook, but from watching your father cry at a funeral for the only time you will ever see him cry. The man in the coffin was not family, not blood, but he had taken a knife meant for your father 15 years earlier. Your father stands at the grave for a long time after everyone else leaves. You stand next to him and say nothing. On the drive home, your father says, "The only debt that can never be repaid is the one someone pays with their life." You are 9. You write it down. Not because you were told to, because something in you already knows these words matter. Here is the thing about growing up in this world that nobody who didn't will ever fully understand. Violence isn't dramatic. In movies, violence is loud, emotional, shaky camera, someone cries, someone runs. In your life, violence is administrative. It's a problem that requires a solution. The solution is discussed the same way other families discuss which school you'll attend or where to go on holiday. Quietly, practically. And then it's handled. You are 12 the first time you understand what handled means. A man had taken something from your father, not money. Something that can't be replaced. Your father doesn't rage, he doesn't threaten. He has one conversation with one man that lasts 4 minutes. 3 days later, the problem is gone. You don't ask where. You already know that some questions aren't questions, they're confessions. And here's the part that will stay with you forever. You don't feel horror, you feel something much more complicated. You feel the specific, uncomfortable recognition of a system that works. Clean, final, efficient. And that recognition, that complete absence of the horror a normal person would feel, is the first moment you understand that you are not and have never been a normal person. You were built differently, from the inside out, before you ever had a choice. Every Don's son gets tested, not with a speech, not with a ceremony, just a situation, carefully arranged, designed to show what you're made of without you knowing you're being watched. Yours happens at 15. Your father sends you to collect something from a man in the south side of the city. Simple errand. 2 guards, a car, in and out. Except when you arrive, the man isn't there. His son is. 19 years old. Angry about something that has nothing to do with you. He says things about your father that I won't repeat here. Your guards look at you. This is the moment. Every normal 15-year-old on the planet would be scared. Would look at the ground. Would want the adults to handle it. You don't feel scared. You feel something click into place. You look at the man's son for a long time, long enough that he stops talking, then you say, very quietly, the way your father says things, tell your father what you said, word for word, and then tell him I was here. You turn around, you get back in the car, you leave. No threats, no drama, no raised voice. 3 days later, the man comes to your house personally, with his son. The son apologizes to your father for 40 minutes. His hands shake the entire time. Your father listens, then dismisses them. That evening at dinner, just the two of you, your father says nothing about what happened. He just moves your chair. Physically picks it up and moves it 3 seats closer to the head of the table. That's it. No speech, no well done. Just 3 seats closer. You understand exactly what that means. And the thing is, you're proud. Not relieved, not grateful. Proud, in the way that only makes sense if you understand the world you were raised in. Let's talk about what's actually happening inside your head. Because this is the part the movies always get wrong. They show the Don's son as either the golden boy who loves the life or the tragic hero who hates it and wants out. The truth is neither of those. The truth is stranger and more uncomfortable. You don't love the life. You don't hate it. You are the life. There is no separation between who you are and what you were born into. When you walk into a room, you immediately know who the most dangerous person is. Not because you're afraid of them, because it's information. Like knowing which direction is north. When someone lies to you, you know. Not because you're smart, because you have been surrounded by people managing information your entire life. You can read the difference between a truth and a performance of truth the way other people read facial expressions. When someone needs something from you, you feel it before they speak. The specific energy of a person who is about to ask for something they're not sure they deserve. These are not special powers. They are learned survival skills that got so deep they became instinct. And here's the darkest part. Normal people find this unsettling. You've watched it happen your whole life. People meet you and something in them registers that you are not entirely readable. Not threatening, just not quite like anyone they've met before. Like looking at water that's very clear but you can't see the bottom. They smile more around you, they choose their words more carefully, and you notice all of it. Every micro-adjustment, every extra politeness, and you file it away. Because information is always information. You are 22 when you find out the truth about your father. Not the crimes, you know about those. You've always known the truth about who he actually is. It happens by accident. You find a photograph in a book in his private library. Old, worn at the edges. A young man, 20 maybe, standing in front of a university building, laughing. Not the controlled smile your father uses in public. Actually laughing. Head back, eyes closed, like someone without a single heavy thing in his entire world. You turn it over, on the back, a name you don't recognize, and a date. Your father's name, and the words, the day I chose wrong. You put the photograph back. Exactly where you found it, you never mention it, but you think about it constantly. The day he chose wrong. Not the day someone forced him. Not the day he had no choice. The day he chose. Which means there was another day, another version, another life that existed as a possibility before it didn't. And somewhere in that young man laughing in front of a university is the person your father decided not to be. You look at yourself in the mirror that night for a long time, wondering if anyone will ever find a photograph of you and read something on the back about a choice. Wondering if you'll ever have one. Or if your choice was made 6 minutes after you were born when 40 men bowed their heads in a hospital corridor. At 23, someone tries to kill you, not a stranger, not an enemy family, someone from inside. You're in your car, routine drive, route you've taken 100 times. The first shot takes out the back window. Your driver is already moving, and because your driver has been trained for exactly this, and you are low and the car is accelerating before your brain fully processes what's happening. You don't panic. That's the thing you notice later. You don't panic. Your heart rate goes up, your thinking goes very fast and very clear. You are processing angle of the shot, number of shooters, likely exit routes, the way your father processes a business problem. Clinically, while it's happening, you get out, you get home. The investigation takes 9 days. On the 10th day, you get a name. You know this person. You have eaten at their table. You know their children's names. And here is where you discover something about yourself you didn't know before. You don't feel betrayed. Betrayal requires surprise. What you feel is colder and more specific. You feel the satisfaction of a pattern that has finally revealed itself completely. You've been watching this person for 2 years. Something was always slightly off. A beat too slow. A smile that arrived a half second after it should. You were right, and being right in a world that kills you for being wrong feels like survival, which is the closest thing to happiness you have ever felt. That realization sits with you for a long time. Your father transfers power when you are 25, not because he's dying, because he sees you're ready, and because in this world, timing is everything. A Don who waits too long becomes a liability to the thing he built. Your father is not sentimental about power. That's one of the things that made him great. The transfer is quiet. A Tuesday, a conversation, a nod. Wednesday, you sit at the head of the table, and here is what nobody tells you about that moment. It's not triumphant. It's not emotional. It's heavy. Not the weight of guilt. You were not raised to feel guilt about what this family is. The weight of total responsibility. Every person in that room is now your problem. Their families, their safety, their futures, every territory, every alliance. Every enemy who is now watching to see if the transition created a weakness. You sit very still and you let them all look at you. You don't perform confidence. You don't make a speech. You just sit and wait and let the silence do what silence does in rooms like this. After a very long time and the most senior man at the table picks up his glass, he looks at you. He nods. Then everyone else does. One by one, around the table. And you understand that this room, these people, this weight, was always going to be yours. The only question was whether you were going to be strong enough to deserve it. Here's the thing nobody knows about you, not your enemies, not your family, not the men who bow when you walk into a room. You have a notebook, small, black, kept in a place nobody searches. In it, you write down every decision you make that costs someone something. Not to confess, not out of guilt. As a record. Because you were taught that a Don who can't account for his own actions is a Don who has lost control. And control, total, complete, constant control, is the only thing standing between the life you maintain and the chaos that would swallow everyone in it. You have been Don for 2 years. The notebook has 41 entries. You have read each one exactly once after writing it. Then you close it. Then you move forward. Because the past in this life is not something you carry around, it's something you account for, and then file, then use as information for the next decision. That is not coldness. That is the specific discipline of a person who understands that emotion is a luxury with a very high price tag in a world like this. You pay it sometimes, privately, in rooms where nobody watches. But at the table, at the head of the table, you are exactly what this life made you, precise, patient, completely present, and completely, permanently, irrevocably different from everyone who was not born into a hospital corridor with 40 men bowing their heads outside. Here is the question people always ask about a life like yours. Do you wish it had been different? And the honest answer, the one that makes normal people uncomfortable, is that you don't know how to wish that. Wishing requires imagining another version of yourself, a self that grew up differently, that learned different things, that has a different brain. But you can't imagine that person, not because you lack imagination, because that person would be someone else entirely. The things this life built inside you, the reading of rooms, the understanding of loyalty, the specific calm under specific pressure, the notebook, the 41 entries, the weight you carry at the head of the table. Those things are you. Remove them and there's nobody left. That's not tragedy. That's not triumph. That's just the truth of being shaped entirely by something you never chose. Every person on earth is shaped by things they didn't choose. Family, country, language, money. The specific combination of people and places that made them who they are. The only difference between you and everyone else is that the thing that shaped you is honest about what it is. It doesn't pretend to be safe. It doesn't pretend to be kind. It doesn't pretend that the rules it lives by are the same rules everyone else lives by. It is exactly what it is. And so are you. Your father found a photograph once, a young man, laughing, the day he chose wrong. You have never found your version of that photograph. You don't think you will. Not because your life has no other path, but because you were given your path before you could walk. And the thing about walking a road your entire life is that after a while, it stops feeling like a road. It just feels like the ground. Long silence. Multiverse Morgan. Every week, a different you. This week, you were born into a life that most people only see from the outside. And the most uncomfortable part of this story is that somewhere in the last 15 minutes, you understood him, not agreed with him, understood him. That's the part that should stay with you. Drop in the comments. Which moment hit different? We already know ours.